10 or more windows and take $700 off patio and entry doors, or no money down and no interest for 12 months. Gilkey offers several options to help you. They'll come to your home exercising safety measures, or you can visit their Chicago Ridge showroom, open Monday through Saturday, or in Palatine, even open Sundays 10 to 4. If new windows are on your list, give Gilkey a call now and schedule an appointment to get your home renovation underway. Call 1-888-3-GILKEY or visit Gilkey.com today. Choose vinyl or choose fiberglass. Just be sure to choose Gilkey.
Your home is your castle, your refuge, your safe place.
Our job at 1-800-GOT-JUNK is to make junk disappear.
And we're good at it.
Your home will feel bigger
and cleaner.
And you'll feel happier.
We promise.
Give us a call
or go to our website
and your junk will magically disappear as our truck drives past your home.
Well, almost.
We'll be in and out before you can blink.
And our gloved professionals touch nothing except the things you want to disappear.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK
or visit 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com.
Our world has changed. When you leave your home, face coverings are the new normal, but the kind you use really matters. Not all offer the same protection either. Boomer Naturals has a covering with 3 layers of ultra soft, breathable cloth infused with nano silver technology, available in adult and children's sizes as well. Boomer Naturals cloth is made for use up to 30 days when hand washed between uses. Order now, boomernaturals.com. Use the code BOB20 checkout, and you'll save 20%. How about that? Free shipping on any order over $50. It is free shipping over $50. All right, back to Dr. Steve here. Dr. Steve Salzman, Green Care Medical. Just quickly, I want to the CDC says on air travel, their official word is viruses and other germs do not spread easily on flights because of how air circulates and is filtered on airplanes. However, the infectious disease person cited in that same article talks about, he adds, if anybody around you is sick, coughing, that kind of thing, I'd get off the airplane. That's a pretty severe thing to say, but maybe that's the way you got to look at it, particularly if you're on a packed flight.
Yeah, I'd be terrified, to be honest. On a packed flight, the guy next to you was hacking up a lung. I mean, God, that was disconcerting before there was a COVID. I mean, now, I don't know how anybody wouldn't get up and get away from the guy, So, again, like, some of these are variables that we cannot account for. We could do all the best intentions and best research and best things, and things that are out of our control, can put us in vulnerable positions. That's the truth, right? So
it is. We have a listener who's asking Dr. Steve about water parks, and I know we want to move into some other summer activities. Maybe we go there next. The whole idea of pools versus water parks versus, not all the pools are even open, but if you are lucky enough to have access to one and you're thinking about it, what do you say about pools, water parks, and lakes?
So in terms of general, with pools and hot tubs and water play areas, there's no evidence that the virus can be spread to people through the water in pools or hot tubs or in spas. And proper operation and maintenance with proper and appropriate disinfection shouldn't activate the virus. And in cases where you're at the pool or the beach, it's the social distancing and good hand and face hygiene that's going to keep you out of trouble. And, amusement parks that's another issue, because the water is not necessarily dangerous and it is going to be treated. But again, let's say you're in a wave pool, and there's hundreds of people closely packed together, potentially even worse than what we saw in, the Ozark video or whatever that we saw a few weeks ago. Right.
Right. So we remember that.
So, it's interesting. You don't know. And which is another good question, which is, with all these people together in close proximity, some wearing masks, some not, as is so many healthcare providers, holding their breath literally to see what's going to happen with thousands of people in close contact in the middle of a pandemic, where things, and you hear businesses were still shut down. So, amusement parks that are crowded, even, with all of the best things in place, of course it's still going to be a risk. You do things to sort of mitigate those risks as best as possible.
Okay, we hit, you got rental cars, hotels, we got airplanes, pools. Are we missing anything before we get on to some other stuff?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But I think more importantly is, people generally speaking should know local regulations, avoid visiting elderly relatives, don't share food and drinks, right? Washing your hands, not touching your face, being social distancing and the 6-foot rule and all of these things, are things that will keep you out of trouble. And don't forget, besides packing your face masks and hand sanitizer and sanitizing wipes, you can't neglect the other things like suntan lotion, like water if you're going to be out keeping yourself hydrated, like bug spray. And before the listeners ask, there is no risk with COVID and mosquitoes. These are respiratory virus that are spread by droplets. It's hard to proliferate the virus and have them survive in mosquitoes. So it's not going to be an issue. But again, wearing bug repellent for other reasons. But these are just sort of simple things that you should keep in mind to keep you out of trouble.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of staying out of trouble, epidemiologists, 500 of them were interviewed for this article. I think it's New York Times assembled all the data from these folks and asked them, hey, what would you be comfortable? What do you feel safe enough to resume each of these daily activities? And they went down the line, and one of them was vacation overnight within driving distance. 56% of them said they were ready to do that. You saw people saying, would they be ready to go on an airplane? The epidemiologists, only 20% said they'd be ready this summer to do that. And it would take 3 to 12 months for nearly to get half of them to say, yep, they're ready. Hug or shake hands when greeting a friend. This summer, only 14% of the epidemiologists said, I'm ready for that. They're not hugging. I know most people are not shaking hands anymore. But then stop routinely wearing a face covering, so no mask, go without one. Only 7% said this summer they would feel comfortable doing that kind of thing, the epidemiologist weighing in. I thought that was interesting to see that. This is what they're comfortable with, knowing what they know, and it doesn't mean that's what all of us are going to be comfortable doing, but fascinating to see that. Are you you're so used to wearing a mask? Are you wearing a mask everywhere these days, Dr. Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I am. I think, when you do the risk-benefit analysis of everything, if, God forbid, I was a carrier, at least I'm keeping other people safe. It's a small sort of chore to do to potentially get benefit, and again, am I wearing it outside if I'm bike riding? No. If I can't appropriately social distance or going inside somewhere, yes.
Mm-hmm. The other thing to note, I heard from some city leaders to say, hey, don't flush your face mask down the toilet. No, don't put the wipes down the toilet, and don't put the gloves down the toilet. I guess people are doing that, and it's causing some problems with the systems.
Listen, isn't that it even says it at the radio station. You flush toilet paper. What's with everybody?
Right.
When
did that change?
What is going on now?
Exactly. Okay, I got to ask you this, and then I have a listener wants to know if we could circle back in those good habits for boosting immunity that you mentioned. I think it was last week when you were on, but maybe if we have time, we're going to circle back to that. I just want to ask you, though, this is pretty big. The World Health Organization came out with something that was so puzzling, and I know this is the novel coronavirus because it's new, and so often the things we know about it changes and we're altered and there's new data. I get it, but this one was so sort of concerning. The World Health Organization said asymptomatic people, carriers, are not really the spreaders because they're not really what we have to worry about. When you see that, what can you say about that? Because so long we had heard they were super spreaders who were going out there and they didn't know they had it, and this was a big problem.
Right. Like, how great is it, the contradictions that we've talked about? Hydroxychloroquine's great. Now it's not so great. Vaccine's coming. Now it's not coming.
Wear a mask. Don't wear a mask.
That's right.
Lives on surfaces for 21 days. Don't worry about surfaces.
See, this is what I'm talking about. And I don't mean to make it a comedy skit, but this is what happens when you try to gather data, and every single day you're finding new things. Listen, if this is true, this would be good. According to what the WHO is saying, they're saying that asymptomatic patients are not driving the spread of COVID-19. And they say it's not the main way it's being transmitted. And because of this, they're recommending that the government response should focus on detecting and isolating infected people with symptoms and tracking anyone who might have come in contact with those specific people. And that if you did that would drastically reduce the outbreaks. How they're gathering this stuff, Anna, is from a number of reports from countries who are doing very detailed contact tracing. And what they're showing is that they're not finding secondary transmission onward and finding that it's actually quite rare. Here's what we know. We still don't know anything, right? This changes nothing. Your behavior and the current recommendations need to stand based on what they have found. And again, this has to be followed up with more and more data and more testing. And the problem is that here's what's frustrating about the WHO, right? They put out a statement about something that has confused the public to a degree that they have to now clarify the statement they put out.
Right.
And let's see, and they're also using different nomenclature. Now there's symptomatic, asymptomatic, and pre-symptomatic. I mean, what the hell is pre-symptomatic? I'm pre-symptomatic to everything I haven't had yet, apparently, right? I mean, it's like that's not clear. And even as a physician, it's funny, but, for the general public, not so funny. No. And they don't have the answer. Pre-symptomatic, what they're referring to in this whole thing, are patients that have not started exhibiting symptoms yet, but will exhibit symptoms potentially in the future, versus the asymptomatic person that never has any symptoms. And then that's another question. What is the asymptomatic? Because most of these people probably have maybe very mild symptoms, but quote unquote do have symptoms. So here we go again with the confusion of asymptomatic versus pre-symptomatic. And this is what, if you have multiple messages, and even there's no clear concise, even the epidemiologists, they're still within their own group, they're fighting about, right, I'll do this, I won't do that. So you could see how, and I'm going to call it what it is, right? With limited information that we have, we're trying to pass robust policies and trying to arbitrarily, so what businesses and places should be open, should be closed. People are scrambling, and when you have yes, it's impossible almost, and no one's going to be a hero in this in the end, right?
Thanks, Dr. Steve. That clears it up, I think.
Or confused it more.
Well, that's the state of where we are right now, and so that's honest about it. Thank you, Dr. Steve. Always good hearing from you. And next time you'll have to talk about the boosting immunity. We got to circle back on that, see if we can get to it. Thanks for your time. It's almost the top of the hour. Let's get to the news in the Northwestern Medicine Newsroom.
Hi, it's Bob Surratt. I didn't want a 9-to-5 job, so I'm here 5 to 9. See you mornings, Monday through Friday.
Your town, your sound, your very own WGN.
Save today on your next project with 11% off everything. Now at Menards. Menards has what you need to start and finish your projects. Plus, you'll save 11% on all of it. Menards offers contactless pickup. Order and pay for your items online, and we'll load your order into your vehicle with zero contact. Get 11% off everything now at Menards. Good through June 13th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Grandma, delicious. No one makes borscht like you.
Ah, thanks you, Junior. Now use phone and take picture of Grandma.
Okay, why?
So you remember Grandma when she famous and move away.
Wait, move?
Grandma want to share secret Lithuanian dishes on Interpol cooking show.
Excuse me?
What people's watch on computer.
Oh, you mean internet, social media?
Yeah, but Grandma no nice kitchen, so need move to big, beautiful kitchen.
Grandma, don't move. Talk to First American Bank.
First American Bank?
Yeah, with First American, you can update your kitchen with a home equity loan or home equity line of credit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, First American has the best loan deals in town with great rates, no application fees.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you can get your dream kitchen with First American's help.
Oh, thanks, Junior. Grandma no forget you when she is big UB2B star.
Thanks, Grandma.
First American does more for your money. Visit firstambank.com. Call us at 847-952-3700. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Lindemann Chimney Heating and Cooling. That's right. Lindemann Chimney and Fireplaces, now Lindemann Chimney Heating and Cooling. With over 50 years of world-class customer service, trust Lindemann to keep your family safe and comfortable all year long. With summer around the corner, now's the time to get your annual air conditioning tune-up by the pros at Lindemann Chimney Heating and Cooling. Normally $150, but for WGN listeners, just $97. The best $97 you'll spend all year. To schedule, go to lindemann.com. That's lindemann.com.
Hello, Chicago. Do you have more people and more devices using the internet at your home? Switch to WOW Superfast Internet 200 for $44.99 per month. And for a stronger signal, add whole home Wi-Fi for $9.99 per month. Offer details at wowway.com.
Wow.
Serving the great Midwest from Chicago, this is WGN at AM 720 on your radio and on smart devices anywhere just by saying play WGN Radio on TuneIn.
WGN Chicago.
A Nexstar Media Group station.
It is 89 degrees. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Bertrand. As a light shower moves through downtown, the news is sponsored by Lindemann Chimney Heating and Cooling. Mayor Lightfoot talks music festivals and budget deficits. On Wall Street, the markets are mixed. All after WGN traffic from Lauren Lapka.
And this report is sponsored by the Illinois Department of Transportation. An accident westbound on the Jane Addams is currently blocking the left lane at Barrington. Edens and Kennedy still look good this afternoon. Up on Eisenhower is stop and go between Laramie and Des Plaines. It's a half hour out to 390, also a half hour back in. No issues on the Stevenson. Traffic is heavy outbound on the Dan Ryan from Garfield. It's 22 minutes to 95th. No issues inbound. And roadwork on I-80-94 West has closed the entrance ramp at Grant until June 30th. Driving responsibly in construction and work zones really is a matter of life or death. Learn more online or through social media at lifeordeathillinois.com. Lauren Lapka, WGN Traffic Central.
The forecast from the WGN Chicago Weather Center. Here's meteorologist Paul Conrad.
A warm, muggy, windy afternoon across Chicagoland with showers and thunderstorms developing as we move through the afternoon and evening hours. We'll see temperatures climbing to near the 90-degree mark. We'll have winds that'll gust up near 45 to 50 miles per hour, and showers and thunderstorms not only this afternoon but tonight and into tomorrow. We'll see some lingering rain showers off and on through the daytime hours. Tonight we'll drop down to 70. Tomorrow a daytime high reading of 80 degrees, and again a 40% chance for rain off and on through the daytime hours of tomorrow. Then Thursday's high 79 with sunshine, 76 here on Friday, and Saturday and Sunday we'll see temperatures in the upper 60s and lower 70s with a lot of sunshine. From the WGN Weather Center, I'm Paul Conrad.
It's 88 degrees right now at O'Hare, 89 at Midway. The lakefront reporting 87 degrees. The temperature humidity index, not a big deal. It feels like it's 93 right now at O'Hare. The city of Chicago has canceled Taste of Chicago, Lollapalooza, and other major city festivals for the summer, all because of the pandemic. Mayor Lori Lightfoot says until there's a vaccine, they don't want to hold huge events like Lollapalooza, which draws 100,000 people a day.
Bringing that many people from all over the country downtown in Grant Park every single day, we might as well just light ourselves on fire. It makes no sense.
The shutdown has cut off city tax revenue.
We are projecting that the 2020 budget shortfall will be close to $700 million. That's a sobering number, and it presents a sobering challenge.
She says she's
any way you look at it.
She's looking at all options to make up for the shortfall, but property tax increases and layoffs are not off the table. They are a last resort, she says. The Tribune says there have now been nearly 100 events canceled at McCormick Place this year. They would have had a $1.4 billion impact on the local economy. Young community activists from the group Voices of Youth in Chicago joined city and state leaders calling for Chicago Public Schools to remove police from schools in the wake of the death of George Floyd. 6th Ward Alderman Roderick Sawyer.
We're not saying that we don't appreciate their support on the periphery. All I'm saying is that in schools seems to result in criminalization of our black youth, particularly our black boys.
The group wants the mayor and school district to reallocate millions of dollars spent annually on school resource officers to instead go to mental health resources. Chicago's marijuana shops begin to reopen today. The shutdown amid the violent protest over the death of George Floyd is subsiding now. They've cleaned up and are ready for business. In New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo calling on the president to apologize for tweeting about a new conspiracy theory involving an elderly Buffalo protester injured when police pushed him to the ground last week. The president tweeting today that the 75-year-old man could be an Antifa provocateur and part of a setup, that he fell harder than he was actually pushed. The governor calling the president's tweet pouring gasoline on the fire of unrest.
How reckless, how irresponsible, how mean, how crude. I mean, if there was ever a reprehensible, dumb common.
The man is out of ICU but still hospitalized in serious condition. And filming is returning to Chicago, at least a bit. Here's WGN's Kim Gordon.
The Chicago Film Office will issue permits to cast and crews of 10 people or less starting next week. Productions must follow guidelines that include cleaning sets hourly and deep cleaning them every night. If 2 or more cases of coronavirus are reported on a single set over a 2-week period, the set owner is required to inform the Chicago Department of Public Health. Filming in Chicago was halted in March. TV series like Chicago PD, Chicago Med, and Chicago Fire had to scramble to wrap up their seasons. Kim Gordon, WGN News.
Your money on WGN. The Dow is down 235 points today. The Nasdaq up 48 and the S&P 500 down 18. I'm Steve Bertrand on Chicago's very own 720 WGN.
I've always wanted to learn another language, but every time I try, it never sticks. So I decided to give Babbel a try, and I really like the teaching method of the app. I started with the beginner lesson on Babbel, and it starts with simple words and phrases, and soon you're putting those words into a conversation. Each lesson takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and they're all really different, which keeps things interesting. The app is really smart. It actually keeps track of the words I'm struggling with, so I can practice them and get better. I chose Babbel because it was created by real language teachers. They built it around real life, how people actually communicate, and what they care about. I can't wait to use my new language skills in the real world. Dos cervezas, por favor.
With Babbel, get conversational in Spanish, French, German, and more. It just takes 10 to 15 minutes a day. Now try Babbel free. Just go to Babbel.com or download the Babbel app and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com, Babbel.com.
We're committed to protecting the health and safety of your family as we take care of your plumbing, AC, and electrical needs. As always, ABC is here for you. We realize how important it is to keep your home cool and running smoothly. So rest assured, your family will stay comfortable with an ultimate AC tune-up for just $89. Just $89 for peace of mind. Schedule at 4abc.com. That's the number 4abc.com. Consider it cool. Consider it safe. Consider it done.
Chest pain, diabetes, asthma. Your health needs won't wait for COVID-19 to end. Delaying care for serious issues could put your health at risk. So at North Shore University Health System, we're taking every step to ensure your safety. Telehealth and e-visits offer care online or on the phone without leaving home. And for in-person visits, we're practicing the latest safety protocols. So don't delay. Get the care you need now at North Shore. Visit northshore.org/telehealth.
Do you want your basement to be dry most of the time? If so, Permaseal is not the company for you. At Permaseal, we believe your basement should be dry all the time, no matter how hard it rains. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer, president of Permaseal. I hear story after story of homeowners who say their basement only leaks when it rains. Well, you don't worry about your living room or bedroom getting wet when it rains, and you should feel the same way about your basement. Just call 800-421-SEAL. We offer a free estimate, no haggle pricing, and a price assurance guarantee, so you can rest assured that you're getting the best value. Your basement is already dry most of the time, but if you want your basement dry all the time, you know who to call. 800-421-SEAL. Permaseal has earned an A+ rating from the BBB and has received their 2016 Torch Award for Marketplace Ethics. That's 800-421-SEAL or visit permaseal.net.
Your best for being better, Permaseal.
It's WGN, Tuesday afternoon, Anna here. So over the course of the protests the last week or so, we've seen a number of monuments, statues, and buildings defaced, and some monuments even toppled. In D.C., that was certainly the case. There are a number of them there. London overnight made news. Protesters toppled a statue of a slave trader and pushed it into the river. Seeing it in other places in Europe. We've seen it here in the United States. There's so many of them. There's actually a Wikipedia page just for this list of monuments and memorials removed during the George Floyd protests. And it goes through pretty much city by city, and it talks about which ones were removed. A couple of them were removed kind of proactively by people who wanted to preserve them, like the bust of Robert E. Lee in Fort Myers, Florida, that was removed by the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Go on to the Confederate Soldier and Sailors Monument, removed by the city in Birmingham, Alabama, May 31st. Then the ones, some of them removed toppled by protesters. Statue of Charles Lynn in Birmingham, Alabama. Another one, some other Confederate monuments across the South were toppled by protesters. Statue of William Carter Wickham in Richmond, Virginia, June 6th, a couple days ago, toppled by protesters, and one of Robert E. Lee at the Robert E. Lee High School at Montgomery, Alabama, also toppled. So you see this kind of thing going on, and thankfully the violence and the kinds of things we've seen a couple days ago have sort of subsided. Certainly in the Chicago area, we've seen thousands turn out for very peaceful protests. But as you hear about this, what are your thoughts that this kind of thing has been happening? It's not something new. We've had all kinds of discussions here in Chicago over the years about the symbols of different. The Columbus Day was dropped by CPS, Indigenous Peoples Day. We saw that. You saw, Balboa was considered to be renamed and renamed for. They eventually decided Congress Parkway would be named Ida B. Wells. Italian Americans fought up about Columbus Day and had problems with Balboa. And you've seen this kind of thing, that these symbols are toppled or removed and just kind of or defaced. Here locally, something else happened last night. And it's not where you might expect. It's in Kenilworth. 2 recent New Trier grads went to the village board meeting armed with a petition and nearly 2,000 signatures and the demand that James Sears, the founder of Kenilworth, original landowner there, that his name be removed from a local school, and I'm thinking public buildings across town. They say he set up Kenilworth as a white community and shouldn't be celebrated or honored in this way. What do you think? 312-981-7200. Your thoughts on this whole issue. Join into the conversation. Let's hear from the guys, though, behind the petition. Jack Yonover, Solomon Podorovsky. Both of them. You guys were, at the board meeting last night stating your case, right? Thanks for being on WGN.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, that's right. So the board meeting yesterday was hosted on Zoom, and so me, Solomon, the creators of the petition, as well as some of our friends, tuned in to kind of elaborate on our position and why we felt so strongly about this issue. And you kind of already said it yourself. Joseph Sears, the man who created Kenilworth and the school is named after, explicitly stated, as our research showed, that he only wanted Caucasians, which also excluded Jews, and really was just meant white people, to purchase land in Kenilworth. And unfortunately, the residual effects of that still show. And that's what people have been talking about recently. This idea of institutionalized racism is very well summed up by Joseph Sears' philosophy, which was Caucasians only. And so the two of us feel strongly, especially in light of the current issues, that a man like this is not honored by any school. And even more importantly, we educate our students about this history and why our area is so white.
Jack and I, seeing like what's been happening in our country over the past couple of weeks with these George Floyd protests, felt that we had a responsibility to use our privilege to try to get something within our community changed. And as we learned more about Joseph Sears and the role he had in in making our township in making our township whiter and in reducing the diversity within Kenilworth specifically, we couldn't stand for his name to be honored as the middle school in Kenilworth. We think that renaming it would be an educational opportunity. In the New Trier Township, most kids really only know like Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Brown versus Board, and Malcolm X. But, since then, there's been 50 years of fighting for racial equity, and our country still is not in the position that it has to be. And a step like this taken from Kenilworth could be a great opportunity to give the next generation more insight as to how we can further equity and diversity within our communities in the future.
Let me ask you about that. Kenilworth, very wealthy community. In fact, I've seen it on lists of some of the top wealthiest, places in the country in terms of places to live. Right now, you can move there if you're of any color. Do you feel as if the attitudes out there are not welcoming of outsiders even to this day? Or is that not what this is about?
I think among the residents themselves, the attitudes aren't that bad. However, like the bias that people have towards Kenilworth kind of stems from fear. It wasn't until recently that many homeowners decided that they would sell their homes to people of color. My father in particular was considering buying a home in Kenilworth, and as a Jew, many of his friends told him not to. And that was an attitude that many thought that the residents of Kenilworth had. Even if they don't have it, I think that changing the name of their school could be a really great move to broadcast the notion that they are open to more diversity.
How was it received? Let me ask you that. So did they, how did the village, the board meeting, they heard you, they accepted your petition. What happened then?
That's right. So we got a pretty positive reception, I have to say. There's been no formal move, at least as far as we know, to actually make a change. But it was clear that the board was receptive to our ideas. They understood where we were coming from. They also received a lot of emails. So it seems like something that they're open to. I think we still need to, increase pressure from the outside and continue to push for this change. Because as Solomon was saying, there is a fear on the outside of Kenilworth a little bit, a bad reputation, at least I know personally in the Jewish community, and I imagine with people of color as well. And doing something like this, changing the name, sure. The name of the school is not actively necessarily hurting anyone, but it's both an educational opportunity and a way for Kenilworth to really formally condemn their racist past and say, we want to move on to this and move forward as a more equitable society and a more open society.
Well, let me ask you about that. You just touched on something. Some might say that why don't you just make it a teaching moment? You can't erase the fact that this is the man who bought the land initially and divvied it up and formed the community. That you can't erase what he did either, and his feelings about supremacy and that kind of thing. Why not make it a teaching moment? And it's at a school to allow people to understand this is a part of history, and this is why we need to teach you about what happened in the past and have conversations about why that wasn't right.
Well, I certainly agree with that it needs to be a teaching moment, and we do not want to completely erase this man from the history books because kids should understand his role in creating Kenilworth and, who he was and what he set out to do. I think it's a two-step issue that to create this fix. So I think, number one, it's ultimately hypocritical to teach our kids that racism is a bad thing in a schoolhouse named after this man who wanted to create a Caucasian-only society. So as you said, we need to teach our kids about him still. So I think we'd like to, rename the school and to honor someone from Kenilworth who deserves that praise. But then at the same time, we cannot allow our students to go through school without understanding the history of how this town was made and who Joseph Sears was. But talking to kids that went to that school, we know that currently they do not learn the history of Joseph Sears. So I don't believe erasing his name is going to erase that part of history as well.
And I also think that there's to be said that within the specific act of founding the school that he's being praised for, Sears made sure that one of the provisions in terms of how Kenilworth was set up was that all residents would be Caucasians. And so, I think that obviously many of the historical figures that we look at in schools did have dark sides to their characters. The specific act of founding that Joseph Sears is being praised for was racist within itself. And I think, as Jack so expertly put it, or so perfectly put it, it's hypocritical to be so anti-racist in a school named after someone who contributed to institutional racism the way Sears did.
I hear you. I just want to ask something, then I'm going to go to the phones too and see what other people have to say about this, people listening. Does it extend as far as is Washington and Jefferson? You talk about slave owners, founding fathers. I mean, isn't that a problem for kids to be... would you apply the same logic to that you're saying that kids would feel uncomfortable in that environment? Does it go that far, and you think that Washington and Jefferson should be removed as well?
Yeah, well, I think it's less about comfort and more about what we're really saying. Joseph Sears as a man was not necessarily the most exceptional guy. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, these are some of the most important men in our history. We should learn the extent of what they did, the nuances of them, but they obviously are more important figures than someone like Joseph Sears. Now, if you want to say locally Joseph Sears was very important, I would agree, but I think a defining characteristic of what he did was creating a Caucasian-only society. I have a lot better things to say about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, who are very nuanced figures, but we should learn both sides of history. I just do not believe that Joseph Sears should be considered among those great figures.
You guys are impressive folks. You stated your case, and you made a good one. And I imagine the Village of Kenilworth will respond, and I hope you keep us posted on what you hear there. Thank you. Thanks for calling in, guys, and keep us posted.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Jack Yanover, Solomon Podorovsky, both stated their case. You just heard them there. They did it last night as well. Your thoughts on this? 312-981-7200. Way into this conversation. We've seen so many of this, the symbols of the Confederacy coming down. You've heard discussions about this here locally in terms of street names and that kind of thing. You saw Washington, Jefferson. I just bring them up. I don't disagree with them that you've got to look at the whole person. And unfortunately, the slave owner piece of it is there. But you honor them despite rather than because of that piece of their record. I think that it's a difficult thing. And right now, these are times when people are feeling pain. They're toppling statues, and there aren't those kinds of discussions going on. I also heard that the Confederate statues were being removed in advance of some of the protests when they realized they might be toppled, to put in a museum somewhere so that you can't erase history. You can learn from it. And maybe that's a better place for them than in public parks or squares. That's being done. What do you think? 312-981-7200. And let us know what your thoughts are on this. We're going to pause right here and then continue the conversation on the other side.
If it's Tuesday, it's Tuesdays with Tom. Tom Skilling will be here to tell us when our once sunny, now stormy weather will turn sunny again. Row count of three.
WGN. My name is David Hochberg, host of Home Sweet Home Chicago. I am inviting you to join us Saturday at 10 a.m. to learn about real estate, mortgages, waterproofing your basement, leveling your sidewalk and driveway, and getting rid of bugs. This weekend's guests are Janelle Iacchino of Rose Pest Solutions, Roy Spencer of Permaseal, and MegaPros Joe of MegaPros Home Improvement. Please visit WGNDavid.com to download podcasts of previous shows and to submit your questions for our expert. Join us this Saturday at 10 a.m. for Home Sweet Home Chicago.
I clicked on the Joint Relief Institute's website the other day. This is John Williams. I know what you're thinking. John, couldn't you be using your time to find better jokes than the ones you've been telling lately? Well, it didn't take long. And I wanted you to know the first thing I saw at jointreliefinstitute.com. Attention Chicago, you can now eliminate your knee pain with a new treatment in a place that takes COVID-19 precautions very seriously. Yep, getting rid of that knee pain is an essential business. Your first visit is free, and they've got an insurance expert to make sure you get maximum coverage. So let's get maximum pain relief. They'll use digital imaging to see where your knee is failing. They'll put a lubricant painlessly into that exact spot. It's all they do. So go on a safe walk, pain-free. Speaking of walks, what do you call a bunch of rabbits walking backwards? Yep, a receding hairline. Look, if you call 708-888-0000, they'll fix your knee pain, and I'll work harder on these jokes. Call 708-888-0000, as in zero pain.
You want to be an organic gardener, but your garden's being attacked by all kinds of insects. Fight back with Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew from Bonide. It's the fast-acting insect control that's approved for organic gardening. Use it to control caterpillars, beetles, spider mites, and more. Get Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew from Bonide, the name you can trust with nearly 100 years of experience in lawns and gardens all across America. Learn more at bonide.com.
We're going to go to the phones in just a second. Hear from you, 224. They're Chicago. They're real. Watch Dan Ponce, Lauren Jiggets, Larry Potash, and Robin Baumgarten. Get real in the morning with the WGN TV Morning News. Weekdays, 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. In fact, hey, so you're saying I feel like they're wiping out history. Move forward, change history, don't go back. I totally disagree with the removal of these monuments and statues. You can't pretend it didn't happen. Don't need Confederate statues in a museum. If you want to learn history, read books. There you go. Dave, let's hear from you. You're on WGN. Go ahead. You're on the air. Your thoughts.
Hi. I think the kids need to be taught that human beings are by nature flawed and they're not perfect. And if we're going about trying to cleanse history of every wrong, then you're just going to drive yourself crazy. I mean, kids need to be taught how to think and decide for themselves. You know, this whole thing of what's right and what's wrong, I think it's getting twisted a little bit too far.
Mm-hmm. So this particular thing, did you agree with sort of the CPS deciding to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day? I mean, those sorts of local things, did they cross the line for you too?
I think regardless of Columbus Day, we should have had an Indigenous Peoples Day for a long time. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are not taught about the Native Americans in school. We hardly were taught a thing other than Squanto and the Pilgrims. But I don't think you have to remove one thing in order to replace another. I just, but, it kind of takes me back to that whole debate about renaming Balboa Drive, because they said Balboa is a monument to fascism, and it's not. It was a monument to the person, the aviator. And if anybody had a sense of history and did their homework, they would realize the Italian people turned against their fascist rulers and became our allies. So, there's flaws everywhere.
Yeah. It's an excellent point, Dave. Let's not wipe away the history. Let's learn from it. Let's hear it out. And you're right. There are certain people who have made accomplishments and done so much that has contributed to our society. When you look at Washington and Jefferson, among them, they are people who despite the fact that they're slave owners, I think that it's important to have them around and learn from them. But don't edit that piece of history either. Don't pretend that part of it didn't happen. It's a tricky thing.
And teach kids about human nature and human beings, and their strengths and weaknesses and their quirks and all that. Everyone has them.
Thank you, Dave.
Nothing is perfect. Okay.
Appreciate it. I just want to make sure we fit Donna, and you've been waiting on hold here. Go ahead, Donna. You're on WGN. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for bringing this up, and I love your show. But can I give you two examples that might put in perspective what we're dealing with here?
Let's hear it.
So I just turned 68 on D-Day, and I have to tell you that when I was 13, my parents took me to a wedding of my brother's friend in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, I'm white, but I believe in Martin Luther King when he said, it's not the color of your skin, it's the content of your character. So I was at the home of the bride the night before the wedding, and I went down to the basement where all the kids were from Memphis, Tennessee. And because I was from the north, they actually stood up and turned their back on me and would not talk to me the whole weekend. So that tells you how ingrained the north and south is, okay? And the other example I'd like to share with your lovely listeners in Chicagoland that I love is that when I was 19, my mother died of cancer, and my father took me down to Florida to show me some places he was stationed in World War II. On the way, we stopped in Memphis, where he and my mother got married. And this was 72, okay? It's been a while since then, but I was walking along the street in Memphis, in downtown Memphis, and suddenly a black family got off the sidewalk and went into the street, which then was kind of full of sand and dirt. And I started to apologize to them. I thought maybe I smelled bad or I offended them. Later, my father told me, no, in the South, the blacks cannot walk on the same side of the sidewalk where you are. And I was horrified. Like, I couldn't believe this could be happening. So this is how ingrained this has been even now, after the Civil War, after the Revolutionary War. We are trying and striving, but I'm just saying, I hope to goodness that people won't turn to violence for the answer. It's never going to solve it, don't you think?
I agree, Donna. I do. And I just, when you bring up that kind of experience, it's not all that long ago. You say 72, but that's blatant racism, right? It's blatant. And now we talk sometimes even more overt, or you hear from African Americans trying to tell us this is how it is for us. And we don't always see it. And I think it's important to bring up those memories. Thanks for sharing it, Donna. It's 2:29, actually just turned 2:30. That means it is time for the news, the bottom of the hour. We're going to revisit that conversation from yesterday about defunding the police. And I think we can all agree maybe that's not really the right word for it, even though that is what the protesters have been saying and showing on their signs. There's another way to look at it. And Representative LaShawn Ford feels very passionately about it. He's going to explain what he thinks should be done in terms of that whole idea of police budgets. Coming up here on WGN. Stay with us.
It is 88 degrees at 2:30. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Bertrand. The news sponsored by Midwestern University Multi-Specialty Clinic. The Cine cancels its summer festivals. The first to look at traffic. Here's Lauren Lapka.
An accident inbound on the Eisenhower is blocking the left lane at Austin. It's a half hour in from 390 and 35 minutes back out. Inbound Kennedy is now backed up from Diversey. It's 35 from O'Hare, but no issues on the outbound side. There's a crash on I-55 South at Renwick. Outbound Stevenson is congested between State and Cicero. It's 33 minutes out to Veterans Memorial. No issues on the inbound side. Seeing heavy traffic outbound on the Dan Ryan from Garfield. It's 22 out to 95th, 15 minutes heading in. And road work on I-80-94 West has closed the entrance ramp at Grant until June 30th. Lauren Lapka, WGN Traffic Central.
The forecast from the Permaseal Weather Center for today, we've got some rain coming in, some showers around, thunderstorms likely, a high around 90 degrees, gusting winds up to 45 miles an hour. Those showers and storms likely to continue tonight, so will the windy conditions, low around 70. And then tomorrow, chance of rain, windy and a high near 80. 88 right now at O'Hare, 89 at Midway. It is 85 degrees at Chicago's lakefront. Mayor Lightfoot says the city is facing a $700 million budget deficit because of lost revenue during the pandemic. She says a property tax hike would be a last resort, but it's not off the table. The city today canceled all of its major summer festivals because of the virus. That includes the Taste of Chicago, Lollapalooza, and more. And 3 Democratic lawmakers are asking a federal watchdog to investigate whether U.S. Park Police broke any laws enforcing demonstrators from the square in front of the White House last week. The Interior Department contends that the use of force was warranted. Your money on WGN. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 185 points. The Nasdaq up 66, and the S&P 500 down 12. I'm Steve Bertrand on Chicago's very own 720 WGN.
2:32. It's Anna here. Let's just wrap up Denise. Well, let's hear from you. You've been on the phone also for a little while. Tell us your thoughts about the conversation we've been having.
Good afternoon. I absolutely love your show, and I love that there's a woman representing, and you're just such a calming voice. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Denise.
Absolutely. Now, if you look back in our history books, we were a union. These Southern generals should not be idolized. They were traitors to our country. They decided that they were going to break from the Union. These are not people we should be idolizing. We should learn from them, but we should absolutely not be idolizing and have statues to them. They broke the Union. They did not want the Union, and they just shouldn't. It's so black and white here. This is no gray area. They decided to break the Union, to secede from the Union. They should not be idolized. So that truly is my point. The gentleman that we're on, very well spoken.
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
Yeah, and I think that we really do need to look at the titles of our school. When we name a school, that's an honor, and that honor should not be taken lightly. And if it means change sometimes is difficult. But we have a sordid history as Americans. We're a learning nation. We're a baby nation. And we're learning to get this right. And boy, we better get this right.
Yeah. How about it? I agree. Thank God we're having these conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you again for your show. And your producers also are lovely. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So appreciate that. You know, it's true. It's like we are thinking about it. We are having conversations that we didn't have before. And all of that's good. I think all of that's good. Thank you all for weighing in. It's good to hear from you, frankly. Defund the police. Okay, that's something we talked about yesterday, and we decided at some point that maybe the word defund might not be the right word. Though I have heard some radical voices in the movement say that they would like to just break apart the police, eliminate it, and then have some sort of a community-led, community-run peace force. And I see a lot of problems with that, but that's not what's being discussed for Chicago or Illinois right now. What is being looked at is the $12 billion overall budget in Chicago. We just heard that we've got a bit of a budget deficit given the COVID-19 crisis, a pretty serious one. But $2 billion of that $12 billion is spent on police, or roughly 20%. And some are saying reallocation of funds is necessary, that we should take a look at policing and come up with some changing strategies. We should look at mental health and treat that differently. That shouldn't be a police issue. There are a number of things that are being suggested. Let's talk about this with Representative LaShawn Ford. He is a West Side lawmaker who has ideas on this, and I know you're out front and center on all of this. Representative, thanks for being on WGN.
Oh, thank you for having me. And you know, you guys have always been fair to the people that I represent by having me have a voice on your show. So I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the time, and I know that we're trying to understand what this means. And initially, when people heard defund the police, everyone was really afraid about that whole idea. At least I was. I'll speak for myself. I didn't think that just kind of breaking apart the whole police department and redoing a peace force with people eliminating the entire thing would be a good idea. But you kind of you have an idea about that does involve sort of starting over again. I heard you say, let's tear it down to build it up again. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, you must replace this system. Now, the question is, are we going to have the opportunity to work with the FOP and the police to fix a cancerous system? Or do we have to just get rid of it like a lemon car? You know, you just get rid of cars because they're so bad because you can't fix them. But it's my belief that that the Chicago Police Department is beyond repair. So we really should eliminate that system and start a new one, because it's putting police in jeopardy. It's giving police a bad name. So I'm all for if the police department, Chicago Police Department, say, we're at the table and we want to do the real reforms and we're going to implement the real reforms, because it's not fair to our members that we have to work long hours, overtime, and put ourselves under stress and pressure like we've seen during the looting and the riots. The police are put out there and putting themselves at risk by a system that is failing them and definitely failing black people and failing taxpayers. So, you know, overtime, taxpayers have to pay for all the overtime that the Chicago police departments have to pay the police for being on the streets. Guess what else? The Chicago Police Department have $1 billion almost in lawsuits, and the taxpayers have to pay for that. I mean, why would we continue to go down the path of funding a system that's failed?
Well, you know, so, okay, the reason they're overtime is right now because there are riots, right? I mean, you can't, thank God we have the police department in time like this. Would this be okay in your view if you didn't have police patrolling the streets during these very tense times?
No, I mean, even before the riots, the Chicago Police Department have extraordinary budget overtime. That's a problem because the system is bad. And even before the George Floyd, the Chicago Police Department has had almost $1 billion in liability lawsuits. That's because it's a system. Even before George Floyd, the Chicago Police Department had a consent decree that if you read it and you see part of the consent decree that the union said that they were not willing to compromise with is they're not willing to compromise on anything that will deal with their collective bargaining.
Yeah, I hear that constantly cited. And, you know, look, I feel as if rooting out the cops that are doing wrong. And I think that let's be honest, I think there's some of them that are fairly well known within the department, that they have been protected for too long. I've done investigative reporting in my prior life and have exposed some of these cops, people who were taking wrongful confessions and getting wrongful convictions. And you're right, they resulted in lawsuits that are very costly for our city. I feel like the department should do a better job at that. I don't think there's been a great record on that. But you have 13,000 officers, Representative Ford, 13,000. And show me a group of 13,000 where you don't have bad people or bad actors, people who are not acting within the rules of the department. But if you break that down, build it up, how does the new system suddenly become perfect?
Because you have consequences and you have rules in place that you have rules of engagement and you have consequences that will make sure that officers know that they're not above the law. There's no talk about individual police. This is to talk about a system, not individual police, because we need police. There's no doubt that we need police on the streets of Chicago, but and across the country. But there's no reason for us to put police at risk and put citizens at risk with a system that's bad. You know, there's no way we should continue to put the police of Chicago at risk with a system that doesn't protect them. And they're being tricked into believing that they shouldn't stand up for change and that they shouldn't say that you guys are putting us at risk because you are not standing up for the real change that we need. If we say that the majority of the police are good, then they should stand up with us and say, we want real institutional change. And one thing about negotiating, I'm a business person, and you go hard, and hopefully it gets the attention. And when you get the attention, then you have some real negotiations.
So is this more of an attention-getting thing? Because I agree with you. The FOP does not speak for all police. And I think if you talk to police on the street, they want to be part of the solution. And they realize that there are changes that should be made, and they want to be part of that. And they want to serve their communities. And the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of police officers want that. They want to be better for the future. They want our city to be safe. And they don't want to be, frankly, feeling like they're under attack all the time either. The FOP has protected some of the guys on the force who shouldn't have been protected in the past. But now you're at this point where you're saying, is this a negotiating tactic? We want to bring this to the FOP so that they understand that everything could go away and this is to build it back up again?
Well, I would think that the FOP would have to make their choice. They would have to say, we're going to be a partner in the structural change that's needed and put in place consequences for officers so that they can be protected and know that if they have misconduct, that they could be punished. And that sort of tempers down a person's behavior because they know that I can't do this type of act because there are consequences. Now, if the FOP wants to have a system that's in place that's respect the citizens that pay their salaries, then I think that we don't have to defund this system. But you got two options: real reform or defund this system as taxpayers and build a new one to protect the people, because the people are still at risk under the current system. The people are still at risk under the system that we have. So black people are at risk and white people taxes are at risk. White people are disrespected also by this police force. We saw it during the riot. And so we need to protect the police and put consequences in place. As a teacher, one of our trainings that we had for the first day of school, we were instructed the way you have a good classroom is to be prepared, but the two things that you have to do on the first day of school is to lay out the rules and the consequences. If you lay out the rules and the consequences and follow through on them, you're going to have a well-run classroom. But no rules and no consequences, you're going to lose control. And that's what we have right now. There's no reason for the FOP to not say there's something wrong with this system that we have. If they say that, we're negotiating from behind the eight ball, and there's no win with these people. Mm-hmm. That's why it's either A or B. Defund this system and let's build up again and put a police force in place that understands real policing, or get rid of this one.
When you say get rid of it and start over, are you speaking of this idea that I've sort of heard out there that it's a peace force and that it's community run and community led? I just see there's so many problems with that because community people are not infallible. They don't have perfect judgment, and neither does anybody else that would suit up and put on the streets for that role. I mean, I'm just trying to envision what you're talking about.
I'm looking for highly qualified police that have the training that they need in order to be highly qualified officers. You know, right now, guess what? In order to be a police officer, you could go to school and get your associate degree, and you don't have to have any training in policing. You can have a degree or associate's degree in basket weaving, and I'm not just saying that. It's true. You don't have to have any specific training as it relates to community relations, as it relates to law enforcement training. You just have to have an associate's degree or a 75 credits to become a police in anything. So
well, you have to go through several tests, though. You have to go through mental health tests, and there's so many tests that you go through that a pool of thousands and thousands is sometimes whittled down to a couple hundred. There certainly are parameters. I don't think that's exactly true that it's just you show up with associate's degree and they give you a badge and a gun and you head out there. I mean, there's a lot of training. There's a federal consent decree right now that requires use of force training, all kinds of training. It is fairly rigorous to the point where you get thousands of people applying and it whittles down to barely only a few folks. Representative, I'm not sure that's exactly true. There have to be some kind of qualifications, and I'm going to agree with you on that.
It's true.
And there has to be an eye on the future of where we go from here. There is a consent decree post Laquan McDonald and the wrongs that we saw there. Now a federal judge decides that how this department moves forward. Those kinds of things are in place to already do better. Is that enough?
No, because FOP is against it. And it's true that, first of all, when we bring in new recruits, we should bring in new recruits just like hospitals bring in qualified people to be doctors or nurses or RNs or LPNs. They are specifically trained for the job that they're going to perform. In the case of a police, you just get to come in regardless to what your degree is in and become a police, and then you rely on a system to train you that's corrupt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's
all
the
right.
problem.
Representative Ford, what's the next step here? I think I understand where you're coming from. I do want to hear from our listeners and get some other folks into the conversation here. But what's the next step here that we should be following? Where do you think what's going to happen next?
I think the number one thing is for the FOP and the people to listen to one another and not dismiss what citizens are saying. Citizens have a place at the table. If they feel that they should defund, then we should listen to them and we should negotiate with them to find out what do they really mean. Do you mean defund or do you mean abolish? I don't think that anyone is saying abolish the police force. They're saying let's defund the current system that we have and let's put a system in place that works for the safety of communities. That's what people want. They don't want a police force that make it difficult for a person that's black to be shot in the back or harassed during policing. They want a police force that's going to deal with the cartel that's bringing guns and drugs into the community so that all of our lives are safe. That's what people want.
And I think they're doing some of that now. They are doing that. You're seeing record numbers of guns pulled off the street. During the protests, there were something like 700 guns that were recovered from people out there. I mean, police are acting in that way. It's not a perfect system. There are changes, and I want to talk about those. But I really appreciate your time, Representative Ford.
But and before you hang up, before we go, the police are dealt a bad hand. Why are we in Chicago allowing the guns to even get to the spot where police have to police that way? The police need to step up and be a part of the fight to protect their lives and to make sure that they're able to be respected. The police are needed, but they need to be protected, and they need a contract that's going to protect them, and they should join the fight for reform.
All right, I agree with you on that we have to stop the guns before they get here. We'd be a lot better off. But thank you, Representative.
Yes, thank you.
Representative LaShawn Ford. He's a West Side lawmaker and trying to lead on this whole thing of the reallocation of funds. And you just heard his viewpoint. Let's hear yours, 312-981-7200. We're going to pause and then continue this in a moment.
And they're off. Out of the gate, it's summer's here, followed by biting mosquitoes, ticks aplenty, and yard pests galore. But wait, here comes Mosquito Squad at the turn, blowing away the competition, absolutely killing biting mosquitoes, ticks aplenty, and yard pests galore. These three are nowhere to be seen. It's summer's here and Mosquito Squad pulling away. Coming into the final stretch, it's gonna be close. It's summer's here with Mosquito Squad at your place. Summer's here and Mosquito Squad, a winning combination. Go to MosquitoSquadChicago.com. That's MosquitoSquadChicago.com.
Chicago Gateway Green has been greening and beautifying Chicago for the past 34 years. Gateway Green is the oak leaf signs on the expressways and 100 gardens covering over 160 acres of roadside landscape that provide cleaner air. Gateway Green has planted thousands of shrubs, perennials, and trees and removed more than 1.5 million pounds of litter from expressways. Help Gateway Green in its mission by becoming an expressway partner and showcase your company to hundreds of thousands of consumers every day. Visit ChicagoGatewayGreen.org.
Hey there, homeowners. Have you had that annoying experience of low water pressure in the shower where you hardly had enough pressure to wash the shampoo out of your hair? You know, the same shower that you have to yell, "Don't flush the toilet, I'm in the shower." Don't put up with this anymore. It's time to get rid of those old rusty corroded pipes and get brand new PEX or copper pipes. Repipe Specialist does repiping unlike anyone else. It's all they do. They've been giving customers great water pressure, clean, clear water, and a pipe leak-free home for over 27 years, serving over 50,000 customers. All in just 1 to 2 days at half the cost of a plumber with a lifetime guarantee. Everyone deserves great water pressure and no more rusty-colored water or pipe leaks. Call us today for your free in-home estimate, customized for your home. We'll even take 20% off our already low price when you call us today. Repipe Specialists. 800-216-0195. 800-216-0195. That's 800-216-0195.
Anna here, WGN. We're taking your calls, 312-981-7200. You just heard from Representative Sean Ford, his view about tear it down and build it back up, the police department, or else get the FOP and the police union to get more on board with changes that need to be done, in his view. Let's go to the phones. David, go ahead. You're on WGN. Your thoughts on what you just heard and beyond that.
Yeah, how you doing?
Right.
You know, you finally made a point that the Chicago Police Department is under consent decree, and everything that the congressman was talking about is already being addressed in the consent decree. And it was put together by input from the citizens and the rank and file. We've already been down this road. Instead of the congressman putting all his effort into pointing the fingers at the system that one person made a mistake, not the entire system did, maybe he should put his efforts in to his community that he represents and get job training and better education and all the stuff that's been put on the backs of police officers over the years because all those social services have been cut and put on the police's plate. Maybe he should put in his efforts towards those things and let the police continue to police the way that they've been trained to do and do the men and women do every day, and an excellent job in doing it.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a tendency to put everything on the entire department when things like this happen. One of these things is too much, and I understand, but and there are things that we can do better. But you're right. We in Chicago, we already have we have these milestones under that consent decree that you have to hit that are what other departments maybe are looking at right now as a model for what they should and could be doing there. Do you agree, though, that there could be a cut in the police budget and that money would then go to mental health, job training, some of these services that would help the department ultimately, because those kinds of issues wouldn't fall in their lap?
No, I don't. Perfect example is while all the efforts of the police department was to protect the First Amendment rights of the protesters and then attempt to stop the looters, there were 40 homicides in 1 week. Mm-hmm. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to protect the citizens of the city of Chicago, and cutting the budget would not help that at all. Maybe that budget could be cut after services are put in place to help citizens that are in distress, mm-hmm. and we see a change in behavior. Then I think that conversation could be had.
All right. Thank you, David. Thanks for calling in WGN. Appreciate your thoughts. Let's go to Sheila. Sheila, go ahead. You're on WGN.
Hi. I just wanted to make a comment. I agree with both sides. I'm seeing it. The police department shouldn't have to deal with so many, with the whole mental aspect, because I live out here in the south suburbs, and when they made all these cutbacks, the cops are they're dealing with stuff, that people, just me and you, regular people, just can't handle. There's a lot of people with mental illness. There's a lot of homeless people, and there's no services for them. During this pandemic, we have a mental health place right here on the expressway that's been closed down. Where are these people going? They're walking around. They've been out the whole time. And, there's really nothing in place for the police to, really do about that. I mean, there's no place they can really put the people. It's just overcrowded, overrunning. And then when we do need to call them for things that really do need to be handled, and we need the police, they're kind of clogged up with this. And the other side of that is simply this. It does need to be some restructuring in the police department. You have good cops, men and women in blue, and they can't say anything, but they're under extreme pressure and stress because they can't, they're getting bullied within the department, and it's not right to have this kind of pressure put on them. I mean, I've known people who try to speak out, step up, and do what's right, and you have these bad eggs that are not. Mm-hmm. And it's really sad because it's what they do to them, and I've had an actual cop tell me this, that they pressure them, and they put so much pressure on them. It's just absolutely ridiculous. They said if they get in trouble, they won't show. And they said, well, you won't have backup, if you do this and this and that. And, and you see them committing suicide. They're under all kinds of stress. It's not just at home. It's in the department. And it's
so
wrong.
Evident. Thank you, Sheila. Thanks for your thoughts. And, you do, I feel like being a police officer right now is one of the toughest jobs in America. And the good men and women, and there's so many of them, are trying to do what's right and build good communities. We'll continue this conversation. It's not going away. There's a lot more to discuss on that. Con's coming up after the news at the top of the hour.
If it's Tuesday, it's Tuesdays with Tom. Tom Skilling will be here to tell us when our once sunny, now stormy weather will turn sunny again. Conn at 3.
WGN 1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1877 Cards for Kids. Donate your card today.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
To learn more about our programs and to donate, go to carsforkids.com. That's Cars with a K. Pickup is quick and easy. You'll also get a vacation voucher and maximum tax deduction.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Also accepting boats, motorcycles, RVs, and real estate donations.
At Amita Health, they believe there's no one quite like you. So they offer care focused on your needs, with individualized treatment plans and doctors and nurses who embrace you like family. With hundreds of locations and online scheduling, accessing their compassionate care is easy and convenient. Learn more at amitahealth.org/access. To find a doctor, call 855-MY-AMITA. Amita Health, in sickness and in health.
TV is the best. Everybody knows that. And now you don't need cable TV to watch TV. You just need really good internet. All the entertainment, local channels, and shows you love all coming through the internet right to your TV. With WOW, get super fast internet to watch it all starting at $44.99 a month. Sign up at Wowway.com and we'll help you start streaming today.
Wow.
Limited time offer for new customers with auto pay and paperless billing. Equipment taxes and fees extra. Offer subject to change. Restrictions and terms apply. Separate streaming subscriptions required.
MegaPros has been the safest, cleanest resource for your home repairs and improvements for over 43 years. MegaPros want to help in any way you need. Questions or resources. Fast and friendly. Yes, we can help. Call 847-658-8989 or go to megapros.com.
Serving the great Midwest from Chicago, this is WGN at AM 720 on your radio and on smart devices anywhere just by saying play WGN Radio on TuneIn.
WGN Chicago.
A Nexstar Media Group station.
81 degrees at 3 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Kim Gordon. The news is sponsored by AppleChevy.com. Mayor Lightfoot announces what the pandemic has done to the city budget.
Baseball still in a holding pattern after the owner's latest proposal to the players.
And in business, another blow to the city's economy. All major Chicago festivals have been canceled. WGN Traffic, here's Lauren Lapka.
And this report is sponsored by T-Mobile. Outbound on the Kennedy, there's a crash on the right shoulder at Lawrence. It's 22 minutes out to O'Hare, a half hour back in. Eisenhower stop and go outbound between Sacramento and Des Plaines. It's 37 to 390 and 32 minutes into the circle. Outbound Stevenson congested now between State and Cicero. It's 33 minutes to Veterans Memorial. Still no delays inbound. Traffic is heavy outbound on the Dan Ryan from 43rd. It's 26 minutes out to 95th, 15 heading in. Northbound on the Tri-State, the long ramp to the Eisenhower is backed up, and roadwork on I-80-94 West has closed the entrance ramp at Grant until June 30th. T-Mobile and Sprint are joining forces to build a network that will cover more offices and employees across the country. You'll get the largest and most reliable network at an unbeatable price. Visit T-MobileForBusiness.com to learn more. I'm Lauren Lapka from the IDOT Traffic Center, reminding you to drive responsibly. It really is a matter of life or death.
The news is next, but first the WGN forecast. Here's meteorologist Paul Conrad.
Look for the development of thunderstorms here this afternoon with a risk some of those could become severe. Those showers and storms will linger overnight tonight and into tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll see a daytime high reading of 80 degrees with a 40% chance you see some rain in your backyard. Still windy here tomorrow, and then things dry out. A nice dry stretch that will run Thursday through the weekend. Upper 70s here for Thursday, mid 70s on Friday, upper 60s on Saturday, and then low 70s on Sunday. Sunshine Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. From the WGN Weather Center, I'm Paul Conrad.
And the National Weather Service has just issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Cook County. That's until 3:30 this afternoon. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning for Cook County until 3:30. Mayor Lightfoot announcing today the city is facing a $700 million shortfall in the 2020 budget due to COVID-19. She says all revenue streams have been affected.
What we have seen is a complete change in consumer behavior as a result of COVID-19, the stay-at-home order, and other things that have affected the way in which people are consuming goods and services. People aren't driving, and they're just not consuming goods and services in the same way.
She says she's looking at a variety of ways to make up for the shortfall, but an increase in property taxes and job cuts are not off the table. It's not a surprise, but Lollapalooza, Taste of Chicago, the Air and Water Show, and Jazz Fest all canceled this year due to the pandemic. The city already announced the cancellation of its summer festivals devoted to gospel, blues, and house music. Funeral services being held for George Floyd in Houston today. Floyd's niece, Brooke Williams, spoke at the event.
America, it is time for a change. Even if it shall begin with more protests, no justice, no peace.
Floyd will be buried next to his mother. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says South Carolina Senator Tim Scott is working on a proposal to address racial discrimination and police brutality.
We're still wrestling with America's original sin. We try to get better, but every now and then it's perfectly clear we're a long way from the finish line.
It's a response to ongoing nationwide protests over the death of George Floyd. Scott is the only African-American member of the Senate Republican caucus. Community activists from the group Voices of Youth in Chicago joined city and state leaders calling for Chicago Public Schools to remove police officers. Here's State Representative LaShawn Ford.
We saw an incident at Marshall High School on the west side where a young lady was beat up by a policeman, and we have to protect the police from themselves. They don't need to be in schools.
The group wants Chicago Public Schools to shift $33 million spent annually on police officers to instead go to mental health resources. Two people who claim police used excessive force on them at the Brickyard Mall during the protests and looting have filed a lawsuit. The family says they were just sitting in their car when police lost their composure. Here's attorney Tamara Walker.
An officer who had his badge covered so they could not locate identifying information, no nameplate on his vest. That's when he struck her. She didn't even see it. She was backing up recording. He struck her from the front hard, full force with his baton, trying to dislocate her phone from her hand.
Two officers have been suspended. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office is investigating. And now with WGN Neighborhood News, here's James Sears.
Looking for a new book to read? The Illinois Holocaust Museum has launched the One Museum, One Book book club. The first book is The Choice, Embrace the Possible, a memoir by Holocaust survivor and psychologist Dr. Edith Ava Eger. The book was Oprah's pick for World Book Day last year. There'll be a discussion Thursday night at 7. You can log on to the museum's website to register. I'm James Sears with Neighborhood News on 720 WGN.
WGN Sports, here's Andy Mazer.
Well, there's no movement in talks between Major League Baseball and the Players Association on the latest proposal by the league. MLB sent a new offer to the players for a 76-game schedule and expanded playoffs. The players think this offer is worse than the previous because the salary cuts in effect will be the same as before. The league would like to hear from the MLBPA by tomorrow. One thing we know that is happening in baseball, the amateur draft will take place tomorrow. A greatly reduced draft down to just 5 rounds from the usual 40. White Sox pick is number 11. The Cubs will select at number 16. PGA Tour is leaving 846th at tee time vacant this week at the Colonial, part of a tribute to George Floyd and to support efforts and to end racial and social injustice. Commissioner Jay Monahan says the tour will have a moment of silence and reflection at 846. In each of the 4 rounds of the Charles Schwab Challenge, the moment of silence will start with 3 short blasts of the horn. The Bears are ending their offseason program early. Coach Matt Nagy said 9 weeks are enough, and he wants his players to start focusing on training without having to worry about video conferences 4 days a week. The team will hold its final virtual meeting Thursday. Veterans will be off after that until training camp. Rookies, though, will still be required to meet. And it was 10 years ago today when this happened in Philadelphia.
Juking his way to the right, lower left corner. Shoots, he scores! Oh, no, that's turned wide by Layton. Loose puck in the crease. And now it's in the net. They score! It's in! They score! The Hawks win the Stanley Cup! The Hawks win the Stanley Cup!
Kane's goal ending a 49-year drought between cups for the Chicago Blackhawks. On the home of those Blackhawks, Northwestern Wildcats and White Sox baseball, Andy Mazer, WGN Sports.
Your Money on WGN, sponsored by T-Mobile for Business. Visit T-MobileForBusiness.com. The Dow closed down 300 points today. NASDAQ up 29. The S&P 500 down 25 points. I'm Kim Gordon on Chicago's very own 720 WGN.
Hi, it's Lindsay of House Smarts Radio. You've heard me talk about Builders Supply Outlet for years, but now hear from their customer, Carol, in Westchester.
A friend had recommended Builder Supply, walked in and was just in awe. Went into the showroom and I spent way too much time in there because there was just so much to look at and it was a lot of fun. I was just impressed. You guys have everything you need for a kitchen remodel. It's nice to have it all in one spot. For me, I just knew I wanted good quality, like all hardwood, good things that I will not have to replace again. You guys were great. Everything came in on time with great communication. I was really happy with everything.
Another satisfied customer. But remember, we're so much more than kitchen cabinets. Builder Supply Outlet is located just 5 miles east of the Oakbrook Shopping Mall on Cermak Road in Broadview, or online at buildersupplyoutlet.com.
Quality and savings are what you get at Builder Supply Outlet.
With over 31,000 associates on the front lines, Jewel Osco has superheroes wearing everything from deli aprons and tech coats to bright orange safety vests. We take great pride in the way Jewel Osco people stepped up to provide essential services during these challenging times.
Things are looking up, Chicagoland. When you're around your home this week, take a look at your chimney and fireplace. For 50 years, Lindemann Chimney Heating and Cooling has been making beautiful homes like yours safe and sound. Book at cleanfireplace.com for Lindemann Chimney Heating and Cooling.
Welcome aboard. Big show today. Between now and 7 o'clock, it's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with Tom. Tom Skilling is going to be here. Also, Tom Green I guess it's Tuesdays with Tom's. Tom Green, comedian. You know him, you love him. He is going to be part of Drafts and Laughs Virtual Beer and Comedy Festival on Friday. That's benefiting comedians, or benefiting relief efforts in Restaurant Strong, Drafts and Laughs. That is not only just taking care of the people in the bar and restaurant industry, it's also taking people in the entertainment industry, part of comedy clubs and other kinds of venues, music venues, who have lost their jobs, lost their income for this entire quarter, and God knows how long, because that's going to be the organization, that's going to be the part of the economy that is probably going to be the last, undoubtedly going to be the last to come back. And there are no plans for putting people in seats next to each other inside a venue for any purpose, comedy, music, sports, whatever it is. And that's a big sector of the community here in the Chicago metropolitan area in terms of, restaurants, but you also have all those other people who do those jobs. So Tom Green will be here to talk about how they're going to raise money for them. And if you want to send your kids to camp, would you like to do that? I'm going to tell you, I know you want to get them out of the house. You don't care if they're super spreaders. You need them out of the house. Well, we're going to tell you how you can do that, both in the city and the suburbs. That's coming your way. In the 4 o'clock hour, Ben Bradley will be here. And celebrating Andy Mazer in for Kevin Powell today. Just played that audio for you in the news of what it sounded like 10 years ago today, tonight, as the Blackhawks were in Philadelphia taking on the dreaded, hated, feared Flyers in front of the dreaded, hated, feared fans of Philadelphia. And it was in a moment that will not soon be, or ever for me, forgotten. Exactly where I was and when I saw that. It was just such a special moment, because it was the end of a drought. And, whether you're a Cubs fan and you saw the end of the drought, or you're a Sox fan and you saw the end of the drought, or the Bears, in 1986 and saw the end of the drought, it was a very, very, very meaningful thing. And I'll tell a story about it. Eddie's got a ton of stories about it, because today is the anniversary of Eddie Olczyk, the great Chicago Blackhawks player. Then he went on to be a coach in the NHL. He did so many great things, Edzo did, and he's now an analyst for NBC Sports for hockey and for horse racing. Today is the anniversary of his drafting into the NHL. So we'll talk to him about that. Okay? And that is how it is all coming together for you on the program. But we start with Brett Baer right around the corner here from the Fox News Channel. He sat down with the Attorney General yesterday, and they talked about this whole defunding the police. Brett will explain what that means and what the response was by the Attorney General, and the whether that can even be done. Right? I mean, that's a U.S. Attorney General has to make some decisions about that. But can you defund police? Apparently, there is some legal scholarship that seems to believe you can. Now, whether it's a good idea is a totally separate issue. And are we using the wrong word when we're saying defund? Are we just saying defund because we want to get everybody's attention? I don't mean me, but I mean, we as a whole. The people who are saying that, is that the idea? Just get our attention and then not do it? Well, that's not going to get you anywhere. But doing it is going to get you in a worse place. And there's only one person I can think of that can help us through this, because he's very calm and he's very measured. Brett Baer. He's on the Mount Rushmore of news. He just, it's going to be okay. If he says it, it's generally going to be okay. So we will talk to him. And don't tell him I said that. We will talk to him coming up on the other side. But first, let's check in now. Here's Lauren Lapka. She's got the WGN traffic.
Seeing reports of a possible power outage in Tinley Park. The traffic signals are dark at 159th and 80th. Right now, things are solid on 159th. Looking at the major roadways, there's now a disabled vehicle inbound on the Dan Ryan in the right lane before Roosevelt. An accident outbound on the Bishop Ford is blocking 2 left lanes at Sibley, and there's a crash inbound on the Kennedy at Washington. I'm Lauren Lapka from the IDOT Traffic Center, reminding you to drive responsibly. It really is a matter of life or death.
Is it rare for asymptomatic people who have COVID-19 to spread the virus, or isn't it? And are states undercounting cases? The infectious disease doctor who advises the World Health Organization advises us at 7:48 a.m. We have your wake-up call.
Bob Surratt, Radio Chicago, WGN.
Folks, when shopping for a home mortgage, how much is great service, low closing costs, and competitive interest rates worth to you? At Townstone Financial, it's priceless. Hi, Barry Sterner, founder of Townstone Financial. Let's hear about the Townstone experience from one of our customers.
My name is Deb, and I just closed on a house through Townstone Financial. Barry and Townstone make it so seamless. They did all the work for me. I didn't expect service like that. You know, I didn't have a large down payment. My credit wasn't pristine. That's one of the reasons I called Barry and Townstone, because I heard that they will go above and beyond to get you what you need. And don't be afraid to do it. It's easier than you think.
Remember, nobody values your home mortgage business more than Townstone. I guarantee it, and I own the company. So call me now, Barry Sterner, at 312-896-2110. That's 312-896-2110. Or go to townstone.com. That's TOWNSTONE.com.
Townstone Financial is licensed in Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida. NMLS 136639. www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org. Equal housing lender.
Worried about visiting a doctor these days? At North Shore University Health System, we're practicing the latest COVID-19 safety protocols to protect you in every North Shore facility. From conducting screenings on every patient and requiring masks, to maintaining social distancing and equipping our staff with the proper protective equipment. We also offer telehealth for care online or on the phone without leaving home. Rest assured, at North Shore, we're taking every step to ensure your safety. Visit northshore.org/telehealth.
Your home is your castle, your refuge, your safe place.
Our job at 1-800-GOT-JUNK is to make junk disappear.
And we're good at it.
Your home will feel bigger
and cleaner.
And you'll feel happier.
We promise.
Give us a call
or go to our website,
and your junk will magically disappear as our truck drives past your home.
Well, almost.
We'll be in and out before you can blink.
And our gloved professionals touch nothing except the things you want to disappear.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK
or visit 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com.
Early morning, stay safe and stay connected with Morgan Kochmeyer's weather forecast and Sarah Ginger's traffic reports. Weekdays 4 to 6 on WGN TV Morning News.
And there's heavy weather moving in.
American City, Chicago, D.C. disbanded its police department. What would that look like? Would the federal government have to step in?
Well, what it would look like is you would have increases in vigilantism and you would have increasing chaos in the city. And that's why doing things that prevent us from having a strong, effective police force are counterproductive. You'll end up having more killings. And that's been shown time and time again.
That is the Attorney General of the United States and down with Brett Baer from the Fox News Channel yesterday. And there were sirens in the background. It was Washington, D.C. I think there's always sirens in the background of Washington, D.C. now. It's sort of the soundtrack of our lives, unfortunately, no matter where you are. I was just mentioning that there is heavy weather moving in through the Chicago area right now, and Tom Skilling's going to join us to talk about it coming up after the bottom of the hour news, because that is a very significant development, really, here. This is as big a storm as we've had in the last month or so. It's the remnants of a tropical depression that entered the United States through New Orleans, came right up through the center, right up the Mississippi River Valley, and then into Chicago. But points east are really getting hit harder than we are. But this is going to be very, very heavy stuff in terms of wind. The water amounts are going to be fairly significant, but not the real story here. The real story probably it's less of a flooding event and much more of a wind damage event potentially as it is coming up here. So that is what we are. That's what we are anticipating that we are going to be encountering here from today into tomorrow. Not longer than that. Tom will also tell us when that is going to be getting out of here and what the weekend is going to look like. I know it's only Tuesday, but yet I am already ahead looking at the weekend. That is where I am. That is how I feel. I think like most of us, because there are so many of us. I'm holding here for Brett Baer. We're expecting him in just a second, but like so many of us, I am also over the pandemic. And I heard in Bob Surratt's promo there are people who are now starting to wonder whether even the super spreaders are really super spreaders. What's really going on here? I think we're in such a state of wanting to get out. We're just going to ignore everything that else that has happened here and just move along and just hope for the best. And I think that more than anything is what we're experiencing here, because there's no shortage of folks that are trying to get out. I cannot tell you how many friends have been sending me pictures over the last couple of days, with them and a cocktail, or just a picture of a cocktail outside at some sort of a restaurant. Those are well, it's my friends, that's the way that goes.
No, it's not just that. I'm pretty sure 99% of pictures people are sharing these days do have a drink in it. I can verify that I am also having that experience.
Right, because there's two things that have happened during this pandemic. Massive alcoholism and the desire to get out. And so those two things are coming together as one on the streets of Chicago and wherever it is. You're down in Orland Park, whatever happens here in the Chicago metropolitan area, man. I mean, yesterday was such a beautiful day. The last couple of days have been so beautiful, and beautiful sunsets and people wanting to, go down by the river.
Drinks just taste better outside. I don't know what it is, especially during the daytime. There's this weird level of how much better drinks taste. Better outside, better during the day. It's just how it is.
There is no question about that. But they also look better at sunset. I've noticed that there's the Instagram effect here, and that's definitely where we're heading. All right, I don't know what has happened to our friend Brett Baer, who was supposed to join us here to talk about the Attorney General. He's got a part 2 tonight on the Fox News channel of his interview, in which they talk about the defunding of the police, and I know that continues to be a cry that is heard here from those who are wishing for whatever change is going to come from this, and change without question should come. The mayor herself, maybe we can play that. The mayor herself today talked about the defunding and what that would look like, because maybe if it weren't just defunding, which I don't think she's on the side of defunding, she's the mayor. No responsible, reasonable mayor who wouldn't be in an election year and thinks that would help him or her would be suggesting such a thing. So she's not. She's 3 years away from an election year. But she is saying this, which I think is kind of interesting. She wants to change essentially what the certification is for Chicago police officers.
I do think it's an idea that we have to give serious consideration to. Here's why. If I go and get my nails done, which I don't do, you can probably tell, but if I did, the person who is handling my nails is licensed by the state. If I go get a haircut, the barber is licensed by the state. There's a uniformity in the professionalism, and then they have to recertify themselves on a regular basis. Why wouldn't we have that for police officers? I think it's an idea that we absolutely must discuss and debate because it makes sense.
So licensing of police officers, maybe if there are some law enforcement officers who could let us know right now, 312-981-7200, aren't you already licensed? Isn't that the point of it? I suppose the idea is your certification would expire, but doesn't it expire? Help us out here, 312-981-7200, because it sounds like a reasonable thing to do, right? I mean, if you have if you're a doctor, if you're there, there are certifications. If you have somebody's life in your hands, and police officers often do, that they have to be, there does have to be recertification, but being relicensed is, I don't 110% understand if that works. And it seems to me that might be unworkable, like so many other things. It doesn't sound like something I would absolutely be opposed to, but it would certainly be something that I would definitely want to make sure can get done. But I think at this point, any idea, any suggestion that comes out that sounds like it's going to do something will see the light of day, because it has to, because there's just a sense that if this crisis goes by without any kind of formal attention or formal change associated with us that we associate with this, there will be more and more and more trouble along the line here. All right, John, you're on WGN. John, thanks for picking up on us here.
Hey, Ro, how's it going?
Explain this to me. Does licensing, if a Chicago police officer or suburban police officer were to be licensed, what difference would that be as opposed to being certified?
That's a great question. I have no idea. You're state certified after your time at the academy. I don't know if that means you have extended training and subsequent testing on a year-by-year basis. But then it begs the question, what would need to happen in order for you to get your certification stripped? And it's just
right. John, hold on one second. I want to hold on, John. John, stand by 1 second for me because Kim Gordon's got some headlines she has to give us right now. There's a weather update. Kim?
Ro, we have a severe thunderstorm warning that was in effect for Cook County until 3:30. That's now been extended until 3:50, and now that also encompasses DuPage County as well. So a severe thunderstorm warning for Cook and DuPage County until 3:50.
All right, thank you. All right, John, all right, so back to this. You have to be a police officer, you have to be certified, right? Explain what that means.
You go through the academy. The academy, typically for suburban departments, is anywhere between 3 to 6 months. The Chicago Police Academy, at the very least, is 6 months because you have a lot more stuff that you need to cram in there that just is relevant to urban policing. So with that being said, once you complete that curriculum, it's like a college degree. Once you complete the hours, as they pertain to criminal law, miscellaneous classroom stuff like the community policing initiatives, de-escalation training, firearms training, so on and so forth, you actually get a piece of paper that says you are now a state certified law enforcement officer in the state of Illinois.
And that allows you to carry a gun, that allows you to it gives you police powers essentially, even off duty, right?
Yes.
So
there's actually a state statute that essentially, it boils down to basically you're never off duty. As a police officer with power vested with you in the state of Illinois, you are never off duty. It's assumed that even when you are off duty, it's reasonable for you to not necessarily take police action,